and they're not going to make that by seeing these standard graphics every day, or if that's the only type of content that you post. So start by just writing a list of what defines you, what sets you apart as a realtor, and what do you want people to know about you? I know it feels a little self-absorbed, but we've got to dig deep into that to find out what type of content people would like to see from you based on that. So, who are you when it comes to real estate? Who do you serve? What is your unique value proposition? What sets you apart from other realtors? Why should someone choose to work with you? And the three critical branding elements to think about when you're making this list: personality, what makes you you? You have a dry sense of humor, a little sarcasm. Are you warm, approachable, funny, professional? Like, what is it that really makes you you? And you should roll with that. You shouldn't try to be something that you're not, honestly. We have a client who just likes to give the spicy takes and doesn't really worry about not backlash per se, but maybe making a couple people mad with the type of content that they put out. It's nothing super controversial, but that client just says things that others won't. So if that's you, it really works for their brand. So if that's you, don't fight it. If it's not, that's fine too. Just stick with what is going to be authentic because people can tell if you're not being authentic. And then your expertise, where does that lie? Is there a specific niche or, a people group that you serve as far as like first-time home buyers, people downsizing? Maybe it's multiple things, and that's great. But think about those things because adding that to your list is going to be helpful as well when you're trying to think of what type of content you even want to put out, who you're trying to reach. You have to be thinking about all these things. Writing it out on that list helps. And then something that is just has worked, is still working, will continue to work this year is stuff from your local community. So I know you can send referrals everywhere, and that's great. We want to talk to a lot of people, but being a local realtor, you really want to hone in on your community. Um, things that you do in your spare time, um, things that you're involved with, hobbies, life experiences, things that make you more relatable. What's new in the community? What events are happening? What can you showcase about where you live? Because you never know who's going to see that. People who are considering moving here or who are relocating here. That's the type of content that really reaches the masses and people see like a human side of what you do. So that is always something I want you to be thinking about doing. This little note down here, think about how a client would describe you to a friend. And is that spot on? Is that what you want your brand to communicate? Add that to your list as well. And you can ask a client too. Ask them for um, their honest opinion on that. Okay, so some examples of strong branding when it comes to real estate. First of all, I want to point this out. It should get to the point where it's easy to identify at a glance that it's your content that your followers are seeing in their feed. So when you start getting content out more regularly, more frequently, and people are engaging with it and it's being seen more and the algorithm is putting it out more, stick with some of the same general elements. It could be as simple as the same font on graphics or on reels so that people can kind of recognize that that's something that you would put out. So it doesn't look like strange to them if they see you associated with it. And again, what feels natural and genuine. We're really going for authenticity. You're going to hear me say that a lot. I'm going to try to give you some different examples of that, what that looks like. But the more authentic you can be, the better your content is going to work. We're past the time where it's just strictly boring branding, um, or just selling our services, putting out boring graphics. We have to share a little bit more of us. So the first one I kind of already talked about in the last slide, community focused expert, local highlights, neighborhood spotlights. Where do you live? Where are you the expert on? Frequent community posts, things like that. Tons of things you can do with that, especially in the summer with more stuff going on. Reels on these topics are great. There's summer concert series, stuff like that, things that are free in the local community that you can highlight. And you can use simple hooks are working things like just take some B-roll at one of those events and use the hook if you haven't been to XYZ, if you haven't been to this free summer concert series in whatever city, whatever town, add it to your summer bucket list. Done. Put the location, um, put a little bit about if you went personally or if you're looking forward to trying it out, and that's it. You could do that. You could turn it into a series and do a weekly event like that or monthly, whatever's doable for you. The second type of content, education oriented approach. So you don't have to necessarily pick one of these. I like to see a mix of, community, education, and then the third point, storyteller. So education is pretty self-explanatory. It's your market updates, it's buyer seller tips, really basic bite-size tips. You think that everyone knows this stuff, but they don't. They are not doing this every day. Some people haven't sold a house or bought a house. Well, some people haven't bought a house or sold a house ever. Some people haven't done it in decades. Things have changed. So those really clear, basic educational type videos are super helpful. You can talk directly to the camera for 30 seconds about a topic. You can post some B-roll with just the on-screen text saying the educational tip that you're sharing, and it's as simple as that. You just have to try to hook them with it and get them to read the caption if you have um, more explanation to give there. So we always do an on-screen text hook to get people to stop scrolling to read what we have to say in the video, and then another hook at the beginning of the caption to get them to read on. And then the third point or the third type of content is relatable personal storyteller. So if you've taken any of these workshops, I'd like to remind you guys, you have a lot of stories that you can tell, obviously using discretion, but without giving away too many personal details, there's just daily conversations that you're having, situations that pop up, things that you can talk about, stories you can tell that will easily demonstrate your expertise without sounding braggy or like you're trying to make it about you. You're just sharing what you've been up to, sharing some things that have happened with your clients, with your business, and people without even realizing it will think, okay, they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, they've had these things pop up. Of course, I'm going to feel comfortable with, giving them my situation and working with them to buy or sell. Okay, so some simple video formats that you can do over and over and over because my point here is, again, you guys are busy. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time we need to create a new piece of content, okay? You can always repurpose content that you've already done. It's your content. So if you made it, you can reuse it whenever you want. Typically, we do like every 3 months, we can look back and see, okay, what worked? What can we reuse? What can we revamp? especially if you have been posting for any amount of time. You can go back to this time last year and see what kind of worked seasonally for you and recreate that. As far as video goes, like you can make stuff into a series pretty simply, or just use the same type of hooks but different information in these videos. So, and the reason I focus on videos so much is because it just works when it comes to reach. It's just you're going to get the most bang for your buck. If you're going to put time into it, you may as well get some return on it, right? So, keeping these talk to camera reels short and sweet. You don't need much. You can just set your phone up, prop your phone up on something, talk to the camera. If you want to get a microphone, there are $15 microphone options on Amazon that work perfectly and gives you a little bit more credibility, or just makes the audio clearer so people will listen. Very simple. Always add closed captions when you're doing the talk to camera type videos, whether you're in stories, just popping in to chat on, to talk to the camera there, or if you're doing an actual reels video. Always add those closed captions. Instagram has it set up where it will automatically do it for you by just clicking the caption stickers. So there's no reason not to. You can make edits to those if it messes up. But most people, I don't know the exact percentage, but there's a high percentage of people when they're scrolling listen with the sound off. So if they're watching you go on this topic for 60 seconds and there's nothing for them to read, you'll lose them. So we don't want that to happen when you're spending time creating this. So just make sure you add those captions. Try to keep it around that 60-second, maybe even 30 to 45-second mark if you can make it concise. You can do longer reels now, but I don't recommend those unless you have a legitimate amount of, if you have enough information to keep people hooked during that time. You can't fill that time with pauses and, um, you know, like me right now, and reiterating the same thing over and over. You got to stick to the point for that full 3 minutes, I think it is now, you can do. I have yet to do a full 3-minute reel. That's just really long. So for these talk to the camera videos, quick tips, educational shorts, something like 3 things to consider before buying in Zionsville, Indiana. I've lived in Zionsville, Indiana my whole life. Here are 3 things that you should know before you move here. I've been a realtor in Hamilton County for however many years. This is one thing that people tend to forget, or people tend to not know before, or are surprised by when they decide to buy here, something like that. I'm just pulling these off the top of my head, but that could be turned into, like I said, a series. You could do it on different areas that you specialize in. You can do it on different topics in general. You could focus on a buyer side of things. You could focus on a seller side of things and talk about various topics. And again, to come up with these topics, a couple of ways to think about that. Write down the last 3 to 5 clients you've worked with and situations that came up with them, questions that they had, unique situations that popped up that you guys had to navigate together. Write those out. And then there's your storytelling, there's your educational tips, is things that you've already taught people and worked through with people. It's right there for you just to turn into content. Another type of video that I love to see is behind the scenes video. So this is a little bit less pressure on you if you don't want to talk to the camera. If you're not comfortable yet with that, starting with these just filming. I use the word B-roll a lot. It's just background video essentially of, it's not the main action. Um, it could be your point of view, essentially. If you're touring a house and you slow pan some rooms, that is like the B-roll of the showing that you're doing, or the open house that you're doing. Documenting your day, walking into the office, working at your desk. You could prop your phone up and just take some video of you typing at the computer, or I was going to say making calls, but not if you're using your phone. Stuff like that, though. Staging a house, meeting with clients. You can do that without showing the actual clients, or you can fake it. So, behind the scenes things, there's a trend going around right now where people just show 2 to 3 second clips from various parts of their day. So, day in the life of a realtor, essentially. What do you do first when you wake up? Some of that is like personal behind the scenes. I took my kids to school, or I always stop at this coffee shop first, and it's local and I love it. Like throwing in little tidbits like that make people relate to you so much easier. And then, I go to the office, or I showed homes in Greenwood, and um, then had lunch at this spot. Or it doesn't have to be the full day. It could just be 3 to 4 things pulled out from throughout the day. But write that down as an idea. What's your typical day look like? What's a day coming up on your calendar where you have some things on the calendar that you could? It wouldn't be too much to go out of your way to film a few seconds of each of those things. And then when you have time, you can sit down and piece them together. And it doesn't have to be complicated, I'm telling you, because Instagram loves when you create videos in their app, or um, their new app called Edits, which is literally created to make reels in. They love when you use that type of simple formatting, simple creation, and post it. So you don't have to learn a third-party app if you don't want to. If you want to, that's great. If you want to do CapCut, or well, I guess we're getting away from CapCut, InShot, or any of those others, that's fine, but you don't need all those apps. Just do Instagram and Facebook for your videos. And then Q&A videos are kind of tied in with the educational video, or they can be. Again, you're just thinking of, what do I get asked daily that is so mundane to me because I know it so well, but other people not so much. So of these video types, what is one that kind of speaks to you that you could realistically do once a week? And I'm not saying you even have to post. I mean, ideally, you'd be posting at least a video a week, but even just doing the creation of it, getting comfortable with the creation so that you have some content, so that when you're ready to dive into creating, you've got some stuff stocked up. We are always telling our clients, we give them like a personalized B-roll shot list to kind of take around with them so that they can send us. We'd rather have more files, video files stocked up that than we know what to do with, so that we have things to work from. That's what you guys should be doing. It's just kind of filming everything, not knowing what you're going to do with it yet. And then you've got a bit of a library to work from. Okay, so I'm going to click through some examples here. I'm going to have to click out of this. So if you don't, for some reason you don't see these examples, just let me know. But this is an easy example of an educational reel, where a simple educational reel, she has just set her camera in the grass, filming a few seconds of her getting in the car, and then she's talking about a topic that, if you've owned a house for a while, seems pretty obvious to you, but some people have no idea this is a thing. So basically just talking about escrow shortages, tax assessments, that kind of thing. So this is what I'm talking about when I mention a hook. She captures attention by kind of talking in probably what is her on brand for her. Me proudly paying my $1,800 mortgage like a responsible adult. Bank, haha, babe, it's actually 2,800 now, your escrow is just kidding. And then for me, at least, it's okay, what does she mean by that? If you're not a realtor, if you're not clear on what that means, um, go to the caption to read more. Her hook in the caption, new homeowners, listen up. And then you read on. She reshares her hook in the caption, which I wouldn't necessarily do. I would just skip straight to this part. But property taxes aren't locked in. It goes on with the quick and to the point detail here, and then some hashtags, some local hashtags, and that's it. And this is, again, a topic that you guys are probably already very familiar with, but not everyone that you work with is. So hold on a second. Now I gotta get out of this one. Open another one. Okay. All right. So here is a behind the scenes story. Oh, on that one, sorry, the educational reel had a lot of saves and shares. So clearly a topic that people wanted to remember or weren't familiar with, and maybe shared it with other homeowners or people getting ready to buy, that type of thing. This is a behind the scenes story that would drive a lot of DMs if you want to start conversation with client or potential clients, this type of topic. Again, just some B-roll, nobody talking here. And she's telling a story about her unique situation. She had, one of those fabulous interest rates, um, but decided to move anyway, because that is a challenge. She's speaking to a challenge that a lot of homeowners are facing and why we've had low inventory for so long. And then just this simple hook on screen, but then it directs people to the caption to read more. So bottom line is, we're not, as realtors, we don't want to push you into anything that doesn't make sense for you, but here are some reasons that it might. And she's using words like we, me, I. That used to be taboo in social media marketing. You want to talk about the person you're speaking to, but now people are more attracted to wanting to hear your side of the story. Um, they want to hear your personal experience. So using that type of language is like, wow, she's really getting personal and talking about what it was like for her to go through. Okay, so and then the call to action here is just a simple, if you have questions about this, if you've been kind of on the fence, basically, my DMs are open. Very simple, very low pressure. Okay, the next one is a simple Q&A. This is well, I think it's a question. Um, to again spark some client conversations. So let's pull this one up. So this is a fair question that people are asking, have been asking these last few years. Um, why do I need a realtor? It feels like we're going back to I told you we're going to keep it very basic here. Back to the very basics, even explaining why you need a realtor. Um, when the market was really hot, some people thought, there's still some people in my neighborhood who think they can just sell it themselves. It's wild. But she is answering that question in a not high pressure way, just explaining things that can go wrong. And her caption is very simple. It's a huge financial decision. Having someone with expert guidance, negotiation power, like don't do this alone. But I love the hook on screen that shares. Well, I want to get back to where her actual hook. Why you need a realtor to represent you during any transaction. So just again, answering that question. Very simple. Okay. Hold on, my screen is. Okay, this one is just this one's more just to be funny. Uh, this would have to work for your personality. Again, none of these I'm sharing that like you should copy these, but they're just inspiration. So she's just being silly, pretending that I'll just let you listen.
Give me Allison. How do you feel when your friends use another real estate agent? Honestly, it doesn't bother me. Everyone deserves their own choice. Everyone's up.
So, this is maybe extreme for some of you who aren't really comfortable on camera yet, but this is just an example of something funny that a realtor did to, again, stand out. She has 24,000 likes. It's things like this. And then you've probably seen the one that went viral, the realtor who played hide and seek in her newest listing. And someone filmed her and she was talking on mic and all these silly hiding places in the house. And she was showcasing all of this, all these features of the house in such a silly way that just stuck out to people. And a lot of people recreated that type of content. Okay, a local spotlight. So I've talked a lot about that. So I wanted to show an example. This is such a great hook. This obviously isn't local, um, but you could turn it into something local for where you are. This says you can't decide between country and city life. So you move to this place where, you know, you can go to wineries or farm life or dining, shopping, concerts, like list all the things that it has within 20 minutes. We have stuff like that around here that you could do that with. What a great hook. What a great reel for people to share and for people to get excited about that area and living in that area, or for locals that already are here to appreciate where they live. So that is a strong hook for a local spotlight. And this is educational, just using B-roll. So again, this is very low pressure. You can take a clip like this today, just driving through a neighborhood. Um, with homes in the background. Like this is the type of B-roll I'm talking about when I say keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it. And she has this really interesting topic that she's discussing here. You only have to save for a down payment once. And here's what I mean by this. So this is the on-screen hook. When I explain an on-screen hook, she's drawing people in by saying this statement. It doesn't it's not going to make sense to everybody. So they'll want to, you know, read on what does she mean by that? And then this is the caption hook. Don't make this mistake. What mistake? I'm going to read on and find out. And then she just explains, you know, all the different ways that you can use equity from your home to buy your next home, et cetera, et cetera. And this may not apply to everyone. It may not apply to every location, but that's just an example of a topic paired with some simple B-roll that had a ton of views, a ton of shares, lots of engagement. You can see all the comments. So you don't always have to show your face. And I promise, I mean it when I say you can keep it simple with stories that you already know. You've already worked through with clients. All right. Sorry, I'm gonna get back in here. Okay, so how can you do this? How can you create things like this, make videos like this without feeling overwhelmed? Um, Getting in a rhythm is tough, and sticking to a schedule is tough when in your business every day is different. But creating calendar reminders for yourself to film the B-roll or to, you know, if you have showings, if you have an open house, if you have an event, if you are going to a local outing, whatever it is, make yourself a note with that calendar invite or whatever to remember to film some B-roll. And again, just film it. You don't have to know what you're going to do with it. And come up with your calendar. Writing out a content calendar helps. So knowing how frequently you can post that's realistic for you. More consistency is better than just sporadic. So I don't want you to get really fired up and well, if you do, that's great. But I don't want you to get fired up and start posting daily for a couple of weeks and then go dark for another 6 months because that wasn't sustainable for you. So 2 to 4 strategic posts a week that you can stay consistent with is far better. For example, our clients to see growth, we post an average of 3 to 4 times a week. We're typically always posting 4 times a week unless it's like 4th of July week is a bust, okay? Because people are just not really online as much. So that would be an example of when we would scale back, post 2 to 3 times that week. Um, so we're not wasting good content or getting frustrated with the results. So if you want to start with 2 times a week, get used to doing that, get really good at doing that, and then bump up to 3 or 4. That's great. I know when you're doing it yourself, it's hard. So I just want you to be consistent. And that's my second point. That builds more trust than just randomly being really active and then not at all. Um, For my own business, I am not in a growth mode right now. We're on a wait list for clients, so I am posting once a week, but I will not give up that once a week reel because I need to stay top of mind with my clients, um, future clients as well. So if you are not worried about really growing a huge following, if you kind of already have your base following and your base clientele that you just want to stay in front of, do that once a week. It's more of a maintenance mode. But if you're wanting to grow, then three, 3 times a week is an average that I would say. And then be flexible with it because I'd rather you give yourself some grace than just give up completely. So when you're busy, just if it's a busy season, be realistic with that. You can scale back a little bit. Just don't stop. Like giving my example of once a week, that is working for me right now. I'm about 3 weeks away from maternity leave, so there's just no way I could do more. And that's fine. When I'm back in the fall, we will ramp up again, but be flexible with yourself, have some grace. And my favorite topic, repurpose content so it works harder for you. First of all, reels in general, the reason I'm always preaching them, they have such a longer lifespan, such a longer reach on social media. So you could post a single photo or post a graphic, and the algorithm may push it out for a few hours. If it doesn't get a lot of engagement right out of the gate, it'll kind of die off like normal, typical content does. If you post a reel, it could take off in a few days, it could take off in a few weeks. It could still be getting real or views weeks, months from now. They have such a longer shelf life, if you will, that again, it's just so much more worth your time. It works, that content is working harder for you than just a graphic would. So keep that in mind. Um, And you could do, you can take one idea that you have of this list you've been working on with, your personal experience that you're going to turn into content, and you can make it multiple posts and multiple types of posts. So you can go back and maybe you have, summer maintenance recommendation posts that you did in the past. So, like, your top 3 summer home maintenance tips. This is at the top of my head, that you had a graphic for, and then you listed the 3 things in the caption. Now, take that concept and turn it into a reel and just take some B-roll of your house or any house outside of a house in the summer and put three, 3 things that you have to do at your house this summer. Um, or 3 things that I'm doing at my personal home this summer to maintain it. Because again, then we're showing that personal experience side of things. You're not just pulling this list off Google. These are things that as a homeowner, you're actually doing and recommending. that your clients do as well. We have a home inspector client, and I think that was pretty close to the hook that we used for them was we're not just home inspectors, we're homeowners. And we are every summer we focus on, or we make sure we never skip this one thing when it comes to home maintenance. Because let's be honest, people are busy. They don't want you to give them 12 things that they need to do on their home. Uh, I'm just going to scroll right past that one. But if you give them, like, okay, hey, I know you're busy, but don't pass up on this one thing. That's content that they will actually appreciate and save or share or follow because you have your content just is a little bit different from the norm that's out there. So, anyway, you can turn a graphic into a reel. You could turn it into a carousel post where each slide is, one of the three things that you're going to do on your house. So that's what I mean by repurposing one idea into multiple types of content. And then always recycle your best performers. If you had a post take off, it may have been a fluke and there may not be an explanation as to why, but let's post it again and see what happens. And you can post the same reel and change the caption, or post the same caption with a different reel, or just completely repost the entire thing word for word. Because again, it's your content. As long as you're creating it, you can do whatever you want with it. And there will always be people who didn't see it the first time, or who need to hear the message again, or who will be reminded that so and so they post this really good content that's helpful, or that we like to see because it's entertaining or it's relatable. Um, and always, you don't need to reinvent the wheel for different platforms either. So just optimize for platforms as necessary. Threads is more just random thoughts that you have, like a sentence or two. So, but you can take posts that you've created for Instagram and Facebook and turn them into threads that work well. I mean, Threads even lets you post reels now. You can post your reels directly from Instagram to Threads if those are connected. So if you want to keep it really simple, you can do that. If you want to optimize it a little bit more for the platform, just type out what you're talking about in your reel in a short thread. Same with LinkedIn. Can repurpose. Um, you can't do reels on LinkedIn, but you can post videos, or you can just do a different form of content, whether it's graphic or carousel photos or something like that with the same caption or same concept in the caption. So sort of my homework with this one for you is to go back to three strong performing posts that you've had in the last year and figure out how you can turn those into a new piece of content so that, again, you're not sitting down just to look at a blank calendar, because that seems like too much. Okay, so some tools that you should be using to help you with this consistency, scheduling tools, because you don't have to be live posting. If you're doing reels, that's kind of an exception, but Instagram does allow you to schedule reels now up to a month out. So you can create it, go to more options, toggle over to schedule reel, pick the date and time. So that way, if you're creating late at night, or that's just, I get the real estate hours are all the time. So whenever you have time to sit down and create, may not be the ideal time to post it live. So if you don't want to have to come back to it the next day, you can go ahead and schedule it for a day out, a week out, whatever. That may be directly in Instagram. Other types of posts you can use, static posts, carousel posts, graphics, images, that type of thing. You can use scheduling tools like Metricool, Planoly, Meta. Ugh. This is my least favorite, but it is a option. Um, it's free for now. So Metricool, I think maybe Planoly too may have a free version. Metricool, last I checked, we pay for that. We pay for Metricool for our agency, but I do think that they have a free version for individual brands. So if it's just you, like you don't have multiple account, you can, okay, let me back up. You can add all of your different platforms on there. So any platform you can imagine they sync with. So you can do TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, etc. As long as it's just your brand. So it's not like your business page and the team's business page. That's when it's going to cost you um, a membership fee or whatever. But look into one of those if you don't already. And then I'm sure you're using something like Canva, but just anything design wise, I can't and I can't currently recommend CapCut because of their terms of service change. I need to do some more research into it, but apparently CapCut has changed their usage agreement so that they can use any content you create within the app however they want, which doesn't really give us the warm and fuzzies. But something like that. InShot is another example that you can use as far as like design shortcuts go, to use their templates or use their editing tools that make life easier. InShot has a feature where it can cut out the pauses for you. So when you're editing a talk to the camera video, it can edit out pauses or things like that, to clean it up. And then it can auto add captions with one click. So anything that's going to save you time, please use it. Download the Edits app if you're trying to do reels. That's another one. And again, Instagram loves early adapters or people who try out their new stuff. They spend a lot of time marketing that app. It's free. So get in there and play around with it and post some reels that way. It auto saves your reels drafts, which is nice because you can just pop back in without having to worry about glitches or losing your progress. Uh, that was my next slide. Easy video, easy video tools. My next point. And then analytics. Remember that we talked about that last time, but checking in the apps like Facebook and Instagram, checking over those analytics, or if you use a scheduling tool like Metricool, I can speak to Metricool's analytics. They're very clean, very easy. They put together a report for you automatically. So if you use something like that to regularly post and connect your accounts to, it will tell you, it will list in order. Like, here's your top performing posts. Here are the best hashtags you've used, that kind of thing. So, again, these are just things to make your life easier. So, choose one of those to start integrating right away, one or two of those to start using now, to kind of carry you through these summer months, make your life easier when you're super busy. Okay, so what's working right now? Instagram and Facebook. Authentic. I know I've used that word a lot, but seriously, authentic, casual, not overly produced. People want like the iPhone photo vibe. They don't want the heavily professional look, because we're kind of burnt out on ads, right? We just want to see our people when we're scrolling social media. So this is great news for us guys, like down to earth, real content. That's what's performing well, less polished, more personal. Carousel posts are doing really well. They're having their moment, and that is a good way to do educational content or storytelling content. Again, if you're not ready to talk on camera, if you want to take that story, you can type out your story, what you would say, and then ask ChatGPT to break it into a carousel post for you. And it will tell you, tell like about how many slides you want it to be, and that you want an intro slide with a hook and a call to action slide at the end. And it will tell you what to put on each slide based on that story that you tell it. That type of content is getting a lot of high saves and shares. which is what you want for the algorithm to tell the algorithm to be told that your content is engaging, should show it to more people. And then threads and LinkedIn, those short, timely conversational posts. What I mean by that is it's a little bit more like pop on and just say your thoughts and or things that are happening right now. Like during the NBA finals with the Pacers, a lot of people, I saw a lot of that type of content, like what's relevant right now, what's happening that you can kind of share your thoughts on. Personal reflections, professional milestones, of course, on LinkedIn, threads as well. You're using it for business. Still with that authentic, relatable, it doesn't have to be um, perfectly crafted. Just type out a sentence like you would text someone. I just saw something last night that reinforced all this for me because it was um, a big brand, Minute Maid, and their thread or wherever they posted this said something along the lines of, my boss asked if we could focus our marketing a little bit more on the actual product. And I said, sure. And then I didn't do that at all. And some other brands were chiming in and people were chiming in saying, this is exactly the type of content we need. People, a Minute Maid is now on people's minds because of that. They didn't even have to share about what they offer, right? And one person's comment was, "I'm going to get Minute Maid juice. Tell your boss I'm going to get Minute Maid juice now because of this post." Like we just are tired of hearing from brands. We want to hear from people. So you are a personal brand. Make sure you are rolling with that vibe. Personal brand, individual person. People want to know you, not so much the perfectly polished realtor behind the Tucker sign. Of course, we want to incorporate that we're with Tucker. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but keep that in mind when you're creating. Okay, so I'll go through these quickly because I know I'm running out of time, but I don't want you to be overproducing your video. I already mentioned that. I do want you spending time on outbound engagement. If you're going to post content, you should be engaging with other people's content as well, so that yours is more likely to be shown to people. And posting just to post isn't really going to feel good. It's not going to make sense to your audience. It's not going to show a lot of results. So the whole point of this topic was just to get you crafting a strategy, um, and an actual plan and a consistent plan at that. And don't try to be everywhere at once. Pick those couple of platforms that you want to focus on and be really good at those. And then if you want to expand once you get comfortable, that's great. But don't try to jump into every single platform or we want to be really good at a few things rather than not great at anything. So this is your checklist to kind of go through. Clarify your brand statement that we talked about at the very beginning. Who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it well? Um, and use that to craft your content. Pick that simple video format that spoke to you, whether that was educational, behind the scenes, Q&A format, those examples that I shared. Which one of those made you think, yes, I can do that? Or, hey, I want to try that. That seems like it could be me. It could be fun. And then a sustainable posting schedule goes hand in hand with all of this. Repurposing system that we talked about, and then choosing your tools, so to speak, to make this all sustainable for you, all doable. Make sure that you're putting all this work into your social media, that you are doing things like letting people know offline where you are online. So, um, adding your social media handles to your business cards, to your email signature, to whatever marketing you're doing at open houses, when you're meeting with clients, make sure they're following you. Because current clients, this is useful for them too, and you want to stay in front of them always. So, this is just another way to do that. You're going to be offering helpful information for people who are in the process of buying or selling, as well as those who are thinking about it or on the fence. So make sure you are getting that info out there. Another thing to think about, and this is, I don't want to overwhelm you, but just consider, um, it's great to have another touch point off of social media. So if you get followers or you have people engaging with your content, what do you want them to do in order to get in touch with you? So my easy follow-up resource is a PDF guide to outbound engagement because it's a topic that I'm really passionate about. It's a topic that, or it's something that our agency offers our full service management clients that we do for them. But this guide teaches people how to do it themselves. So it could be, a seller's guide, a buyer's guide, whatever, but it should be personalized, like you made it. So it's unique to you. Give them an actual value proposition to download it or to sign up for your email list or whatever it is that you want them to do. But it could be their home valuation, whatever is going to get them to your end goal. So is that getting their email list so that they're in your CRM? What do you want them to do? That's just something to think about. Creating a simple PDF checklist or guide, a freebie, essentially. It does not have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. It's info that you already know, that you can just create in Canva and be done. Okay, that's it. I know I talked forever. So if you have questions, I'll hang out for a couple minutes. Feel free to put those in the chat. There will not be a workshop next month. We're not doing one in August. I will be having a baby soon and I will be back mid-September. So we tentatively have a date for, and Grace, I already forget what it is, but I'm going to check. I think we said the 17th tentatively. Now, that all depends on what this child decides to do. So we will keep you posted by email. But we were talking this morning about probably focusing on reels, because that's something that is always changing. And it seems like there's always something new, or they changed the format, or, what's working now is different from what was working last quarter. So we will probably do a refresh on creating reels in Instagram. Um, and maybe I'll even double up and do some discussion on Instagram stories as well, because those are two types of content that I'm very passionate about. I think work really well for realtors. So just keep that in mind for the next one. We would love to have you back for that. But if you don't have questions, I'm going to stop talking now so you can exit anytime. And I appreciate you being here this morning.